Good morning and welcome to the NBA Daily for November 18th, 2025. I'm Dave DuFour here with Zena Keita. Coming up, the Nuggets lost to the Bulls in spite of Jokic's big game. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Paul George is back and Giannis went down with a groin injury. We're going to talk to Eric Nehm about it after the break. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Zena. How's it going?
Good morning, Dave. It's going well. It's going well. Last night was interesting.
Yeah. Not just your league pass with the stuttering and internet issues.
Yeah. Let me know, guys. If you guys are having league pass issues, drop in the comments some solutions because I've been struggling. But yes,
it does seem that listen, I'm not going to tell you where you can find alternate streams, but they do exist. They are still out there. But we can't endorse that sort of behavior here on the show. Another crazy Monday night, and we actually got the three best teams in the league. They all played Monday night. It's basically at the same time because it seemed like it was a pretty condensed schedule. The Pistons picked up their 10th straight win, even though Cade Cunningham wasn't out there. Obviously, the Pacers, they did get Benedict Mathurin back, but Zena, it didn't matter. Did not matter. Shout out to S for that joke. Like that. You wrote that in the chat.
That was good.
The Thunder moved to 14-1. They put up 49 points in the first quarter against the Pelicans. The game was basically over about the middle of the first.
Baby.
Yeah. News came out, by the way, that on the short list of candidates for the head coaching job there in New Orleans, Darvin Ham. So that tells you about where Pelicans fans are in the process of, I don't know, whatever the heck's happening there this year. And then the Denver Nuggets, they had the Chicago Bulls. Look, hey, the Bulls, second night of a back-to-back. We watched them, Sunday night they had that double overtime game against the Utah Jazz. You assume, wow, schedule loss for the Bulls. The Nuggets came out flat, Zena. They just did not have any life to them until the end of the game.
We literally were thinking, wow, Jokić looks tired. He's not doing well. He started out the game going 0 for 5 from the floor. You're like 0 for 7, actually. We're like, yeah, this is going to be a quiet night. We don't know. Someone's going to have to step up. I think Jokić heard us through the grapevine somehow.
Yeah.
He steps up, ends up with a triple-double, but it wasn't enough because you looked at the production between the two teams, 66 bench points for the Bulls versus just 9 for the Denver Nuggets. And Christian Braun suddenly looks like the hero needed for the Denver Nuggets. Of course, he was out last night. And all of a sudden, you just realize that connecting piece, that connective tissue between the starters and the second unit, even the third unit, disappears. And so does the offense when particularly Jokić comes off the floor.
Yeah, and look, the Nuggets, they got off to a slow start. They did have a great third quarter and got the game close down the stretch and handed to the Bulls. Every single time they needed to make a big play or get a rebound, Josh Giddey was in there. Josh Giddey just...
Herter.
Kevin Herter
making some great threes. Yeah.
Yeah, another big game for him. But again, the bench just absolutely dominant. Ayo Dosunmu had 21 points off the bench. And then you look at the Nuggets and they just could not get anything going outside of the time that Jokić was on the court. He was plus 10, in a game that they lost by 3, which feels more like last season than this season. Yeah. But look, we're going to write this one off. Look, you're going to blow a couple during the year. But it does stink, Zena, because... Well, we're going to write it off. Look, it's just one loss. But what we do need to note, it was Cam Johnson's best game as a Denver Nugget.
That's what I wanted to make sure we acknowledged before we wrote it off. Thank you. Did a great job. 19 points. How many threes, Dave?
He was 5 of 7. He only had 8 made threes on the season. So 5 last night.
That's big. He looked comfortable. It just sucked that it was spoiled by a Bulls win. But yeah, it was like the game that we expected Cam Johnson to have since he's joined this team. And he made some big shots when they needed it, especially in that third quarter. But we have to write it off. And unfortunately, that includes.
Listen, Nugget starters they did their business. They took care of business, destroyed the Bulls starters actually like by double digits. But the bench, it was rough. Hey, Paul George was back last night. Made his season debut against the Clippers. And, it started out, I was thinking, wow, exactly what the Clippers needed. They needed Paul George back to find their feet. And then all of a sudden the Sixers mount a nice comeback. Again, this team just never stops coming. And pick up a big win. Tyrese Maxey had 39 points. Before we get to Maxey, I do want to start with Paul George. Zena, I mean, what do you think? This is the first time we get a chance to see him this year. He was 2 of 9 from the field. The shot looked a little rusty. What do you think about how he looked?
I did love the fact that his first shot comes off of him in transition, passing to the corner. Maxey gets it right back to him. Nice inflow, beautiful Paul George shot. We were a little spoiled because that shot did not open up a flood, of 3-pointers from Paul George. But what I did love to see is that he looked healthy. He was active. He was mobile. He got on the glass, 7 rebounds, had 3 assists on the night. Still is getting acclimated to getting back out on the floor. But overall, it's nice to see him out there being a part of the mix. And Tyrese Maxey hasn't missed a step all season. Like, he is playing so well. And we know last year, this was the thing. When Paul George and Joel Embiid are available, where does Maxey fit?
Right.
Well, we've had enough runway now for Maxey to know this is still my team. This is my runway. This is my team. We're operating around me. And right now, with Paul George and the way that he's coming back, that's the exact hierarchy that you need to see right now with the Sixers. It was fun though to be able to see James Harden, Paul George, former teammates go up against each other. James Harden, unfortunately, was not able to get the win despite 28 points and hitting 28,000 points, I believe, in his career, which is crazy.
Only half of those free throws, Zena.
12-12.
I do want to say this, though, about Paul George. If he can give them something until Kelly Oubre gets back, right? Like, he needs to fill in some of those minutes. And it's a funny thing to say. That's because I think Oubre has just been so good for them to start the year as far as being an energy guy, being able to play 3-4, hit some shots. If Paul George is going to be healthy and play like Paul George, obviously that player is better than Kelly Oubre, and he plugs into just about any team. But for now, if he can just, get his legs underneath him, figure out a way to make some shots. I mean, he did look good on the 1-3 he made. It looked great. He's kind of walking into a pass and just turning and shooting from above the break. Looked great right over a defender. You can see where that would fit, especially with the guard play that they've got. So, and also he plugs in defensively.
Crazy.
He plugs in defensively, especially when you've got Bona and Drummond out there, because he can actually protect the rim and work on the perimeter some too. And then we got some bad news yesterday. Victor Wembanyama is going to miss a few weeks, probably at least a month, maybe up to 6 weeks. And Zena, look, the Spurs have been a great story to start of the year. Wemby himself, we keep talking about how he's taking this leap. I mean, the statistics they kind of speak for themselves when you look at the numbers that he's putting up. But I think when you watch the guy play, that's where you really get a sense for how different and special he is. There's no way that the Spurs can make up for that guy because, number one, he doesn't exist, and Luke Cornett is not anywhere close to that. But my assumption is they're going to start Luke Cornett, and he's not a bad guy to have as a replacement.
No, and Luke Cornett's been playing well. That pick and roll, being able to be that person that finishes at the rim, you love to see that. My biggest concern, though, with Victor Wembanyama is that when he's on the floor, the Spurs are +7. Right. And when he's off the floor, obviously, that's their defensive identity on top of their offensive feasibility just drops. And that is where I'm a little concerned when it comes to no size other than a Luke Cornett. Now, they've got some depth at the big position, but it's not what Wemby provides in terms of the defensive spacing, the offensive just opportunities, the layers to their offense that they have when he's out there. We'll see what happens. But the biggest thing, too, on top of what happens with the Spurs, this could impact his awards situation. Yeah. I think that's what you were telling me before this started.
Yeah, if he misses a month, 5 weeks, I mean, that's like 13, 15 games. All of a sudden, you start getting at risk of the 65 game rule coming into play. Obviously, it affected every single awards race last season, it felt like, except for MVP. It would be a shame to see it affect more awards this year. But injuries, as they become more and more prevalent. I mean, this is another calf injury, by the way, which, Jamal Murray, who we watched last night, he's been dealing with one, playing through one. Anthony Davis is out with a calf injury. John Morant's going to miss a couple weeks with a calf injury. So teams are also being extra cautious here because we all have a short memory, but we remember Game 7 of the NBA Finals where Tyrese Halliburton's out there playing with the calf injury, and we know what happened.
And we remember Jason Tatum, and we remember Damian Lillard, and we remember all of these guys that had calf injuries that led into something way more serious.
So take your time coming back. Yep. We will see you award time, whether you're there or not, with the game rule. Guys, stick around. After the break, we have Eric Nehm to talk about Giannis and if he's going to miss a lot of time. The Milwaukee Bucks lost to the Cavs last night, but that's not the biggest news to come out of the game. Here to talk about it, Eric Nehm, our man that covers the Bucks up in Milwaukee. Eric, you're in Cleveland. You were in the arena. Giannis goes down middle toward the end of the second quarter with an apparent groin injury. He's going to get an MRI tomorrow. Give us the latest.
Yeah, I mean, no update really after the game from Doc Rivers outside of he's going to get some imaging done. It's funny, you know, I've covered Giannis for a very long time, and like I've told people this before, he's impossible to predict, right? Like one of the great stories of Giannis's life is he had a 6-week injury that he returned from in 6 days and played in Game 1 of the 2021 NBA Finals. I know early in his career, I think on the same night that Matthew Dellavedova had an ankle sprain, Giannis had an ankle sprain, and Delly was out 2 weeks. Giannis was back in 2 days. So when it comes to injuries and timelines with him, I think it's always something that's incredibly difficult to predict just because he has shown kind of this like superhuman ability to recover from things and get back to things. But with that being said, I think the Bucks do have one of the more cautious training staffs in the league. And this is the franchise, right? Like the reason why a Giannis injury is such a big deal is because he means so much to this team. You know, one of the highest usage rates in the league, one of the highest scorers in the league, one of the best players in the league. So you have all of that. So it is a lot. I will say, watching it back, you know, he planted for a layup off of 2 feet. He landed on 2 feet. It looks like maybe one of the feet kind of slipped a little bit. He grabbed at his left groin. Then he got right back up. I wouldn't say he like ran perfectly down to the other end, but he did run down to the other end, commit a foul, and then walk off the floor. Like he walked straight back to the locker room. So again, amateur doctoring it. It doesn't look like it was like a groin tear. Like I would think a groin tear, you may be laying on the ground and not getting up. So I think everyone's kind of hoping for the best, but I also think the Bucks are ready for a couple weeks here without Giannis Antetokounmpo, and that's going to be a really tough test.
I always really admire the way in which NBA players are immediately attuned to injuries. Like the way he walked off was so intent for the locker room. I barely can tell when my wrist is hurting from carpal tunnel, but I'm just like, my thumb's been feeling strange recently. Anyways, looking at the way in which the Milwaukee Bucks still battled, kept it close with Cleveland pretty much the entire game, closing it out. There was a lot to get excited for if you're a Milwaukee's Bucks fan, you know, thinking about maybe if Giannis does have to miss time or his miraculous bloodline allows him to come back sooner. Either way, there were some pieces that you were excited about. Looking at this Bucks team, of course, we've looked at Ryan Rollins all season long as this, you know, young guy that has come into the fold and come into the spotlight and really owned that position. But there was also some production off the bench as well. What popped for you out of the Bucks tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you think of the Bucks without Giannis this year, we go back to, I guess the last time I was on the podcast. Like the last time I was here, I was talking about Ryan Rollins' career high 32 points against the Golden State Warriors when they beat the Warriors without Giannis. That's the game that you think of. And I do think Ryan Rollins is going to be a big part of it. It's kind of amazing to think about his journey this year where it's, you know, he's going to be the guy that comes off the bench. They expected big things from him, but he's going to come off the bench. Kevin Porter Jr. gets hurt in the first game of the season. all right, you're the starting point guard, bud. Okay, well, it turns out we're going to need you to score a little bit more. Okay, you're going to play 30 minutes in back-to-back games. Okay, now Giannis is down. We're going to lean all the way into you being the guy. And it's just kind of amazing all of the responsibility that has been heaped on his shoulders. And just for a guy that I don't know if people were really expecting that at the start of the season, and he's handled it incredibly well. Maybe he's too young to know that it is a lot. Even if I try to remind him every postgame, like, man, they're really asking you to do a lot. But he just keeps answering the bell. And so I think that'll be a big part of it. And then I think when you look at the bench, Kyle Kuzma had his most points ever in a game for the Bucks, 29, 3 games ago now. And that was a game that I think everyone got very excited about. And Kuzma's done a good job playing his role this whole season. And now this is a situation where if there's guys on this roster that can score more, can kind of see those things raise up a little bit, Kuzma's one of them. I think another guy is Bobby Portis off the bench. They haven't asked him to do as much scoring as he has in previous years. Without Giannis, they're just going to need points. So that's another guy that can step in there. And, it's funny. I was talking to Miles Turner after the game a little bit about it. And I said, I know with you, even though he is their big free agent signing, like, I don't always assume with you specifically, it's like, if you're playing well offensively, that doesn't mean you're scoring points. And Miles is such a good cutter. He's such a good second side guy. He's such a good passer. He's such a good dribble handoff guy. He does so much that isn't necessarily scoring that, like, I don't think he has to score to play a great offensive game. But with that being said, they need some more points. And he was like, no, man, the ball has energy. Like, you got to keep making the right play. And he's like, one thing that I think I learned over the years in Indiana was, like, you got to play to the system that was built. Like, however the system was built, you have to keep playing that way. And yes, a lot of this system was built around Giannis, but this is still a team that wants to get to a second side. They want to get to another action. They want to play next action basketball. And one thing Miles kind of kept saying over and over tonight after Giannis' injury was like, that's what we have to do. We have to, the only way that we can create enough offense is doing those things. And when you look at it, that is true. Like, you can't ISO with the non-Giannis guys. That's not going to work well for you. You're going to have to play as a team. You're going to have to cut, screen, do all of those things to create for yourselves, because you don't just have that guy where you just hand him the ball and say, all right, go score 30 tonight. Giannis can do that. The rest of this roster cannot.
Yeah, you sometimes want to see, I remember my time in Santa Cruz with Ryan Rollins when he was with the Warriors, and he was that guy that could go up and down the middle, because it's the G League, right? And he's a foot above everyone from an athletic perspective. We know how long his wingspan is. My goodness. My favorite story about Ryan Rollins actually has nothing to do with basketball. It was after a game, he scores incredibly well, has like double-digit assists. I get to interview him after the game, and I'm talking, and I finish interviewing him, and I go, back to you guys. And he is standing behind me and just keeps standing there. And the cameraman walks away, and he's just standing there, and he's got his long arms kind of like folded over his head. He's just like standing there. And I turn and I'm like, oh, you can go now, Ryan. And he just goes, do you know Coco Jones? And I was like, yeah. He's like, has anyone ever told you look like her? Yep. And it was in that moment that I realized, wow, that's a young man right there. That is a very young man. So it's very cool now to see him in this like leadership role, and kind of thrust into it and being so casual about it. But every single guy, coaches wise at Santa Cruz, at the Warriors, when they talked about Ryan Rollins and his mentality in these type of roles and being a leader in these type of positions, like, he always was open to the challenge. He was so receptive, so much like a sponge. And now we're kind of seeing that come to fruition. And it's cool, because for a long time, like, the Milwaukee Bucks were this old team. Yeah. Right. Like that was their moniker. That was their brand, with that. They were the IQ team. They were the unction on the East Coast versus what we're seeing right now on the West Coast. And so now Ryan Rollins kind of changing that and shifting that a little bit. Kuzma and his, microwave type scoring coming in and trying to add a little bit more youth to as well. And then, you could kind of throw in a Miles Turner, even though he's right in the middle of that, the 2-pack though.
It really is like, the Bucks kind of built this thing to be I guess you'd be Pacers north because Milwaukee's north of Indiana. But like the whole idea this year was like, okay, so Giannis will score 30 a game and that's what he's going to do. But then after that, like we don't really care if we have another 20-point per game score. We don't really necessarily even care if we have another 15-point per game score. Like we are going to want 6 or 7 guys to be 10 to 15. And like that now is literally going to be what they have to do. And hopefully, obviously, you can have Rollins score 20 in a game, or Kuzma, or Bobby Portis, or Miles Turner, or Gary Trent Jr., or whoever it might be. Like, you can do that. But that it is going to have to be like the strength in numbers kind of thing. And that is like, you know, the when they beat the Warriors that night, Bobby Portis had joked about it. Like, you know, it kind of felt like we did the strength. He's like, we did the strength in numbers thing to the Warriors. We
used their plan.
That was what we did tonight. 100%. So it'll be interesting to see how they work through this. It's going to be very difficult. This is one of the tougher. They just got done with, let's see, I think it was 7 games in 11 days, 6 games in 9 days. And I think everyone was already looking forward to this break. And now it's kind of lucky that one, they'll have an off day here on Tuesday. Wednesday, they will have a practice. Practices are very rare in an NBA schedule because you play so many
especially
every
Doc
other
Rivers
day
practice
games that like you don't get to actually do this, and they are going to get to do that on Wednesday. And you know, if by Wednesday Big fella's gonna be out a week, big fella's gonna be out 2 weeks, whatever it might be, like you can in that practice be like, all right, here is the game plan. Offensively, we're doing this. Defensively, we're doing this. This is how we're going to win. And sure, it's not a training camp to get it all ready, but it is at least a day, like a practice day that you can get everyone together and try to get everyone on the same page.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he's not going to miss a lot of time. I mean, we were just talking about how Wemby's going to be out a month, maybe 6 weeks. And I don't know, man, too many guys out right now, and we can't afford to miss Giannis for that long. Eric Nehm, missed you on the show, but you'll be back soon, I think. Guys, go and read him at The Athletic. Thank you to Eric for joining the show. Thank you to Zena Keita, as always. I'm Dave DuFour. This has been the NBA Daily. Thanks for waking up with us.